So we're going to essentially end um, with chapter 13, and I'm going to be posting several of the crash course lectures on the topics that were covered in this chapter. Um, I just kind of feel like there's a lot of detail I would like to cover from this, and at the same time, here we are at the end of the semester, and I feel like it's always frustrating as a lecturer when you are coming to the end, and I'm feeling burned out, and you as a student are feeling burned out, and we have these important topics that are brought up. And furthermore, I would have liked to have ended this semester on the Reformation, to really put in this chunk. So what I am doing, as I kind of mentioned in the notes, is I'm going to just talk a little bit right now on what I want you to think about with this chapter. Excuse me. I'm going to post several documentary clips, and then I'm going to post a documentary on the Reformation with Martin Luther. Even though you're not required to read chapter 14, um, it's a good way to kind of culminate thinking about this section of Western Civ, which we really covered. And then if you were to take my 105 class, I'm going to go over the Reformation. I'm going to start with the Reformation and cover it in more detail. Um, but I think that the chapter 13 is important, mainly in understanding um, the West in terms of where we are. We're located in North America. America is not just uh, America as in the United States, but people in South America are also American and consider themselves American. And I've brought this up in my world civ classes. There was an artist who put up a picture of the United States map, and he says, "This is not America." And then he showed South and North, and he said, "This is America." So reminding those of us from the United States that America is this whole continent, North and South, and that the impact of our civilization of the West on this hemisphere um, is, well, it's beyond. I mean, it's huge, right? And what I just kind of want you to get you to think about, while the textbook it covers in a lot of details, I really want you to just remember this, and this is something that's discussed in the book, that by European exploration into Africa, to the Caribbean, and then to North and Central and South America, the West was no longer a place, but a concept. That Australia, same thing. New Zealand, white European culture imposed itself. Um, in some cases, people were just settlers, finding another land. I don't want to use that word always impose, but if you think about it, the migrations. When we were going to the beginning and we were learning about Germanic tribes and the Huns and all these other groups, they had desperations that pushed them in, over resources many times, and then put them in conflict with other tribes. And um, Europe itself was formed out of, in many cases, Celtic people being displaced at the expense of Germanic tribes. And we can go on other types of examples. The British Isles is a perfect example. And in fact, it was the Irish that were being used as a case study of repression prior to the England going into North America and testing it out on the Native Americans, the tribes here. So, I mean, it's interesting to think that we're a part of this European Western project that, even though, let's say, the United States um, did something different and broke away from Europe, we really are often, on one hand, celebrating this legacy, and the other hand, really denying it and not acknowledging that, that the United States, the Constitution, the very ideas that we have come from Europe, and it also comes at the expense of another people's culture. And I want you to also just think about how then the legacy of the West, it means different things to different people, and it should make sense. As you look in this chapter, Columbus has really opinions about him have really started to shift, because in the past he was just a pure hero, but as more and more people can voice their opinion from the other end, native peoples from South America and in the North have a very different feeling about him, and with good reason, as we see that, right? The Black American experience has been different than the white American experience. It just has been. You can't take that away. You look at the idea, and we have come a long way, but as we see, just even the view of the law and the way that certain groups here in America feel as opposed to others, we're still having this unresolved set of issues that we, coming from the Western tradition and being put into a world that is not the birthplace of the West, and again at the expense of others, between slaves and displacement of the indigenous population here, I think it's good to see that contradiction and that conflict still exists in the way that even in the British Isles. I mean, if you think about this, my ethnic ancestry, like many of us, and I brought this out, is Germanic Celtic. For the most part, that's strictly what I know of my family history. And so these all blend in my brain, but Irish people, I know this guy who has a tattoo of a British flag, this bartender, and he said he put it on himself to, in honor of his father being from England. And he was at a punk show in Ireland, and the guys saw the flag and they said, "You're wearing the blood flag," and he got chased out. He thought he was going to get jumped. So and in Scotland almost voted itself to separate from Britain, from the United Kingdom was no longer going to be united. And so what's my point? My point is that I think it's good to step back and look at the significance of this chapter, for you to read it and think about some of the things that are discussed in some of the crash courses, the topics, and think about the legacy of the West and its complications. And when I say that, meaning not to demonize it or to glorify it, but to look at it for all of its complexities, because it is something that is quite significant on the world. All education is based on Western education for the most part now, and yet at the same time, it hasn't been a legacy of equality. There's been a hierarchy of set of events in which some people have truly benefited from this legacy, and other people have found that to be purely negative, or sometimes at least ambiguous in terms of what it really means, right? And my daughter's mother is Haitian and Filipino, and in Haiti there's a color hierarchy that we've had to kind of deal with in family relations, that the French put on and made a very distorted view of color on the island of Haiti, still felt to this day, even within my own family relations, about a lighter being better, whatever that's, right? Okay, and that is in Dominican Republic as well. This is something that the West brought in. So again, I just think as you look at this chapter, I think a lot of us have really enjoyed and celebrated the ideas and really looked at some of the heritage coming through here. And then we just kind of stop here and we hit this wall where now it's the West encountering the non-Western world, you know, Africa, Latin America, like I said, all these other places. And it becomes a whole nother topic, doesn't it? I feel like it's almost like you read this chapter and it almost doesn't even feel like this class anymore, because now we're seeing Spain, you know, and the conquistadors, and we're looking at what's going to create Mexico and all these things, and yet we should be more engaged with this. This is usually covered in World Civ, but it's a more complicated section that requires, I think, maybe like 3 weeks of discussing, and I just don't have the time. So read the chapter well and watch the videos, and then you're going to post discussions. I would like you guys to really get creative with your posts and comments and think about this particular chapter, and then perhaps some commentary even on the Reformation, at least getting yourself kind of you know, seeing the significance of that. So I've enjoyed this class, and we're going to now have, this is it, and then there's going to be the final. And so I hope that this has been an enlightening semester for you, and I would enjoy to have some of you guys with me in the Western Civ 105.